Alright guys, so this video is going to be about doing the soil test kit but with a different version. So in the previous video we used the rapid test soil test kit. This one we're using the hold all soil test kit. You'll actually be surprised they're made from the same company, which is Luster Leaf. It's just a little bit different in the setup, but not much at all. So this one is unique because it comes with 4 test tubes, so you can see which one is being tested and where. But it does come with the same system almost as the others. So it has a capsule system, so we've got our different color-coded capsules. And we're going to show you how to run through the test kits, either on your own or with your students. So you can share this with them. And depending on which one you get, these tend to be very cheap kits. And just like the others, they do give you a number for pH, and they do give you color-coded charts to compare. But they do not give you numbers for nitrogen, phosphorus, or potash. So those tend to be, unfortunately, just whether it's high, medium, low, or very low. So we'll start with the one that you actually need soil for. That's going to be the green kit. So this one has very simple instructions. You're going to remove the cap and you're going to fill it with soil to the first line. So that seems like it's a lot, but it's really not. So if you look at it right here, I don't know if you can tell very closely, there's a couple of dashed lines on here. So we're going to do this very easily. We're going to take some of our soil sample that we had earlier, make sure there's no debris or anything like that, and we're going to fill to just that first line with soil. Okay, so I like to do this in the bag so that if you end up losing some, you're okay. Okay, so that basically ends up being about 1/4 of the capsule, of the tube, and then what you're going to do is you'll take one of the pipettes that are provided with you, and this is why doing that settling lab works best first, because we took our soil that we settled out today, and what we're doing is we're going to allow it use that water, because in order to make it work, actually no, I'm sorry, this one is just the distilled water, sorry. So before I mess myself up there. So I'm taking the capsules. This one is the green capsule. And what I'm going to do is open the pack up, and it wants you to pour the powder from one of the capsules into the tube. So you can do this one of two ways. You can either gently try to open the capsule, or you can try to use scissors. So these are pill capsules. You don't drop the capsule in, you need to take the powder out. So I'm going to try to gently separate this without spilling everything. And it's a pretty simple thing, so you'll drop that on top of the soil first. Okay. So I'll show you what that looks like now. I think I made it without spilling any. Okay. And you can also just use scissors. That's probably an easier way. And so you'll have the powder now sitting in there. Then it's going to ask you to add water, preferably distilled water. So we won't be using the cylinder yet. That'll be coming in shortly. And so I have some distilled water in a plastic bottle. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill that to the 4th line. Okay, so we're going to get some water out of our bottle, and we're going to fill it all the way up to line number 4. So that's up to about here. So we're adding some more. Getting some more water. And we keep on adding until we get to that top line. So still need some more. And like I said, the setup for this lab is remarkably similar because they come from the same company. So even though it's got a test tube system and not a little comparator, which is those little square boxes, it works pretty much the same way. Okay, so then we will cap it and then shake it thoroughly. Okay. And going to allow it to settle for about 1 minute. So we shake the tube, make sure that everything is mixed in with our water and our pill capsule chemical, as well as our soil. And so we'll let that settle in, and it said to wait about 1 minute. So I'm going to go ahead and put that off to the side and begin doing the others. So for the other 3, these are pretty cool because you're just going to be using the soil from our graduated cylinder, so you don't, or the liquid from our graduated cylinder. So you let it settle, and what's going on here is now that the chemicals that were in the soil should just be what's in the water as well if you use distilled. And what you're going to do is you'll add the water to the fill line, which will be the fourth line. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and do that to all of my tubes using this water. And then you'll put the amount of the correct color-coded capsule in there. So if you look right here, I've got green for my pH, which probably means I'm either neutral or maybe alkaline using the chart here. Okay, so that is an easy way to do that. So that came out really quickly. And so now I need to put water in each of these. So I'm going to fill them up to the fourth line. And then these are pretty simple. So when you do this, you want to try to make sure not to catch any of the debris. And so you got to fill it all the way up to the fourth line with water. So all these tubes are the same. It's okay if you mix and match the caps, as long as you don't mix and match the color-coded caps with the capsules. So that's going to be a trick there to do. And I didn't have to wait long for this water to settle. This is really from this early afternoon, so preferably you want it to settle for a few hours or over the weekend. That's usually when I do my lab, on a Friday, and then we come back in and we will be looking at it from there. So filling it up to the proper lines. Okay, make sure I didn't put too much in there. And then so I've got all three tubes ready to go. Okay, I'm getting that one up there. So the second line there. That should be about to the third, a little bit more, and then finally to the last one. Okay, so now I've got the water I need. Now I need to make sure that I color code these. So I've got my 3 capsules. I've got my pH test that's already done, and again, that does look neutral. And for these, I will just put the correct color of capsule in each tube. So I'm going to get my scissors so I can cut these and get them done quickly without spilling them everywhere. But it's pretty much the same as the other lab. So if you have the rapid test kit, then what you're doing is the same thing. Okay, and so I've got my purple one, which is my phosphorus test. Okay, and I'm going to pour that in the tube. Okay, make sure I get the liquid in there, or the powder in there with the liquid. Okay, and then I will cover it up, make sure I have it labeled as the purple one so I don't mix and match or get confused on which test is which. Okay. And then again, the more purple this looks, after about 10 minutes, it'll tell me the amounts, or the relative amounts, qualitative amounts of how much this is. So now I'm going to be looking at the orange one, which is my test for potash or potassium. Okay. And I'll be doing the exact same setup. You pour in the powder to the liquid capsule. So I'm going to do this over here so I don't spill any. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Okay. And so now this is my orange test, so that is going to be the same as the other one. So I put the orange capsule over it, and it says to shake vigorously, and you're going to leave it, allow the color to develop for about 10 minutes. Okay. And you don't want to leave these in sunlight. So that's one thing that they do recommend in the instructions for these labs, is not to leave them in sunlight, because then they will not show the proper results. So I'm going to take out my capsules for my blue test, right? Which in this case should be my nitrogen test, right? So I'll unwrap that, pour that in. I'll show you in just a moment what that looks like again, but it's very similar to the others. Okay. And so you pour that in, and now you got it sitting at the top, and you cover it up and shake it, and that will give you your ultimate results, right? So now at this point, it just becomes a waiting game. You make sure that you mix up the chemicals with your soil water, and then you'll start to see a color change. So, and these again, you're supposed to leave for about 10 minutes. And so as you can see, my pH test came out very clear. That's a neutral to alkaline. And then over here, like I mentioned with these, they're not going to give you a number. So if you look at our food chart, our test chart, excuse me, the test charts are going to be simply just high, low, medium, and very low. So that's the important part to look at these when you're testing them out. And so that's all we're doing. We're going to wait the 10 minutes and we'll see how that goes, and you'll see what that looks like. Okay, so we waited the 10 minutes, and if you look right here, obviously the pH test still came out right. But our other ones, the nitrogen, the potassium, and the phosphorus test, they're very low and very light. So I probably need to give these a little bit more time. But they do have a chart in your test kit that you can compare the colors to as you go. So that is how this one goes. It's, like I said, very similar to the rapid test kit. It just looks different because of the test tubes, and they don't use the little comparator boxes. So either one works fine. They have their limitations because they don't have numbers, so it's all qualitative data, but at least it's some data rather than nothing. So students should have some knowledge of the chemical tests, and doing that with actual soil is probably the best way for them to do that.